I've done it the same way for over 50 years, but lately, something doesn't feel right. That's what Robert, 72 years old, quietly told me during a recent consultation. He wasn't ill, he wasn't on new medication, but something was slowly weakening his body, and it wasn't his age. Sometimes the habits we think are harmless, especially private ones like masturbation, can become silent threats to our heart, our prostate, and even our ability to feel, not because of the act itself, but because of how we do it, and most men don't even realize it. I'm Dr. Alan Whitmore, a urologist with over 60 years of experience caring for older men who want to keep their strength, circulation, and confidence without shame, pills, or guesswork. Many of them were never told how to care for their bodies as they age. Some believe as long as things still work, they're doing fine. But after 60, the truth is more complex. Lower testosterone, slower circulation, sensitive nerves, and quiet loneliness change how the body reacts. Even something as personal as self-touch needs a wiser, more mindful approach. In this video, I'll walk you through 7 common mistakes men over 60 often make during masturbation. They don't shout, they don't leave bruises, but they quietly drain your energy, connection, and vitality. And mistake number 6 is one nearly every man gets wrong. If this feels familiar to you, I want you to know everything I share here is rooted in real-life experience. Men like Robert often believed they had lost something because of age. But in truth, what they needed was simply a shift in how they approach their bodies. If you're a man in your 60s or beyond, searching for strength, clarity, and deeper connection, this video is for you. Before we begin, I gently invite you to subscribe to the channel. Tap the bell so you won't miss future guidance made just for men in this stage of life. And if you already feel seen in these first few lines, leave a comment below. Type "I'm ready to reconnect." Sometimes a simple sentence can start a powerful journey. Now let's begin with the first mistake, one that's often overlooked, but quietly rewires how your body and brain respond to pleasure. Mistake number 1, using porn as the main stimulus. I remember Stephen, 68 years old, sitting in my office with a quiet concern in his voice. "Doctor," he said, "I don't feel much anymore. It's like my body is going numb." He wasn't alone. Over the years, I've had countless men, usually in their late 60s or early 70s, share the same quiet fear. They no longer felt that spark, and almost every time when I gently asked them, "How often do you rely on pornography?" their eyes dropped, not from shame, but from the realization that no one had ever told them it might be causing harm. After 60, the brain's dopamine system responsible for pleasure and motivation becomes less flexible. When you expose it to constant, high-speed, high-intensity adult content, your brain gets overwhelmed. To protect itself, it begins to shut down sensitivity. That's when the real connection begins to fade. Touch doesn't feel the same. Your body doesn't respond as quickly. And even if you're physically healthy, your ability to feel real intimacy quietly slips away. The tragedy is, many older men blame themselves. They think it's just age, but it's not. It's overstimulation. And unless you reset your brain's response system, that numbness can linger for years. If you've noticed a drop in sensation, connection, or satisfaction, don't ignore it. This first mistake might be the hidden cause. And if any of this feels familiar to you, I invite you to leave a comment. Say "I felt that emptiness," because you're not alone, and there's a path forward. Next, we'll move into the second mistake, one that doesn't depend on what you watch, but where you do it, and why that place so often chosen for comfort is actually hurting your body in ways most men never see coming. Mistake number 2, masturbating while sitting on the toilet. Over the years, many older men have quietly admitted to me, "Doctor, the bathroom is where I feel safe. It's the only place where no one interrupts." Edward, 70 years old, was one of them. For him, the bathroom had become more than just a place for hygiene. It was a private space, a sanctuary. But what Edward didn't realize, and what many men don't, is that masturbating while sitting, especially on the toilet, can slowly damage vital functions. After 60, circulation becomes one of the most important systems to protect. Healthy blood flow supports sexual function, prostate health, and recovery after climax. But when you sit for long periods, especially hunched forward on the toilet, you restrict that very blood flow. That position puts pressure on the prostate. It tightens the pelvic floor, and it slowly strains the nerves that are already more fragile with age. I've seen the pattern again and again. Men in their 60s and 70s develop symptoms like post-urination dribbling, groin discomfort, difficulty fully emptying the bladder. And yet, they never connect it to this quiet habit. But I can tell you, as a doctor who's reviewed the scans, listened to the stories, and followed the outcomes, this seemingly harmless position can set off a slow chain reaction, one that affects everything from intimacy to urination. The good news, it's not hard to change. It begins with awareness. If this sounds familiar to you, consider adjusting your environment. Try standing, reclining, or lying back. Give your pelvic area space to breathe. Let the blood flow again. Your prostate is quietly asking you to stop squeezing it. If you've recognized yourself in this pattern, leave a comment that says, "I will give my body space," because sometimes even a small shift can bring real relief. And next, we'll talk about something most men do without realizing, a habit that silently trains the body to feel less every time it reaches for pleasure. Mistake number 3, rushing the experience. James, 66 years old, told me something I've heard many times before. "Doctor, I just want to get it over with. I don't have time to linger." That mindset is common. After decades of responsibility and routine, many older men see self-pleasure as just another task. Quick, private, done. But the problem is, after 60, your body doesn't work well under pressure. Not physical pressure, not emotional pressure. Rushing through the experience triggers your nervous system into stress mode. Your heart rate spikes, blood vessels constrict, the release of healing hormones like oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin is cut short. Yes, you might climax, but you don't feel fulfilled. You don't feel energized. You feel emptier. And over time, that pattern teaches your body that pleasure is shallow, fast, disconnected. You begin to lose sensitivity. Arousal becomes harder to hold. Interest fades, even with a loving partner. And again, many men blame age, but the real cause is urgency, a habit that quietly robs you of something much deeper than just sensation. So what can you do? Slow down. Let the moment unfold. Be present. Feel each part of it without rushing to the end. There's no finish line anymore, only the experience of being alive in your body. If you've ever felt like you were just trying to get it over with, leave a comment, "I choose to slow down," because your body still knows how to feel deeply if you give it time. And speaking of what the body knows, the next mistake involves a group of muscles most men have never even heard of. Muscles that control everything from erection strength to bladder control. Let's talk about them next. Mistake number 4, ignoring the pelvic floor. Most men don't know what the pelvic floor is, and yet it plays a crucial role, especially after 60. This group of deep muscles supports your bladder, prostate, and sexual organs. It controls your ability to hold an erection. It affects orgasm, urination, and overall strength in the lower body. I once worked with Richard, a proud 67-year-old former athlete. He exercised regularly, ate well, and still felt something wasn't right. What Richard didn't know is that years of sitting, holding stress in his lower abdomen and ignoring the pelvic floor had left those muscles weak, disengaged, and forgotten. When you masturbate without engaging this area, or worse, when you push down instead of gently activating upward, you're putting pressure on the prostate. You're weakening the very muscles meant to support it. Over time, that can lead to dribbling, leakage, weaker erections, and reduced sensation during climax. And none of it happens all at once. It creeps in, slowly, quietly, year after year. But here's the good news. You can reconnect. You can rebuild. Simply tighten the same muscles you'd use to stop a stream of urine. Do this gently, especially during arousal. With practice, that subtle engagement restores awareness and strength. Not just physical function, but also confidence. If the term pelvic floor is new to you, you're not alone, but today is a turning point. Leave a comment if this resonated with you. Say I'm reconnecting with my foundation, because even hidden muscles can carry deep power. Now let's explore something many men worry about, but rarely talk about out loud: how often is too often or not enough. Mistake number 5, frequency. That's too high or too low. Harold, 74 years old, once asked me a question I've heard hundreds of times. Doctor, am I doing it too much or not enough? That question carries more weight than it seems, because behind it lies uncertainty, shame, and sometimes silence. Some men worry they're overdoing it. Others quietly wonder if they've gone too long without. Most are left guessing, alone. But what I've learned in my decades of practice is this: both extremes can cause harm. Let's talk about doing it too often. When a man masturbates frequently out of boredom, habit, or unresolved emotion, the body can't always keep up. Energy levels drop. Prostate tissue becomes irritated. It may take longer to recover. Desire may fade. Pleasure becomes routine, and routine dulls the nervous system. But stopping altogether has its own risks. Some men stop because of medication, some due to health fears or religious guilt, others just believe they've aged out. But the body still needs circulation. Even without climax, gentle arousal helps maintain blood flow, nourishes nerves, preserves strength. When that's missing too long, atrophy sets in, desire fades, connection dims physically and emotionally. There's no perfect number, but for most men over 60, 1 to 2 times per week, done with care and presence, often brings balance. It maintains hormone rhythm, supports emotional well-being, and keeps your system alive without exhaustion. Most of all, listen to your body. Its signals may be softer now, but they're still there. If you've struggled with frequency, unsure what's right, leave a comment. I will listen to my body, because awareness is the beginning of wisdom. But even if the timing is right, one common habit can still undo all the progress, one that many men never think twice about: using too much pressure. Let's talk about that next. Mistake number 6, using too much pressure or force. Thomas, 71 years old, sat across from me with a look of confusion. Doctor, I don't feel as much as I used to. It's like I have to work harder just to get anything. I've heard those words again and again, and so often they point to one silent habit: using too much pressure during self-touch. As sensitivity decreases with age, many men instinctively respond by gripping tighter, pressing harder, or using surfaces that apply more force, trying to bring back a feeling that seems to have slipped away. But here's the truth: force doesn't restore sensation, it destroys it. The nerves in the penis are delicate, especially in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. Years of rough friction, tight squeezing, or mechanical pressure can lead to real physical trauma. That includes on micro tears in tissue. loss of elasticity, scarring beneath the surface, curvature or pain, reduced blood flow, long-term loss of feeling. And these changes don't happen overnight. They build slowly, silently. By the time you notice something's different, the damage may already be well underway. But there's more to this than just the physical. When a man feels he has to fight for pleasure, he disconnects from it. It becomes a task, a struggle, not an act of healing or joy. That mental tension teaches the body to resist instead of receive, to brace instead of soften. So please take a gentler approach. Touch with intention, with presence, with kindness. Your body still responds. It just needs a new kind of invitation. If you've ever caught yourself squeezing too hard or trying too forcefully, leave a comment, "I will be gentle with myself." That promise matters to your body and to the man you are becoming. Now let's move into the final mistake, and it's the most invisible of all. Not physical, not mechanical, but deeply emotional and quietly heartbreaking. Mistake number 7, lacking emotion, connection, or intention. This is the mistake that hides in plain sight. It's not about what you do or how often. It's about how you feel when you do it. Over time, many older men begin to treat self-pleasure as something mechanical, routine, empty, stripped of meaning. It becomes a quiet escape from loneliness, a habit done without thought, without emotion, without presence. Lawrence, 73 years old, once told me, "It doesn't feel like it used to. I don't even know why I bother anymore." His body still worked, but his heart wasn't in it. There was no connection, no warmth, no spark, and that emotional distance leaves a deeper scar than any physical change. When pleasure becomes disconnected from intention, your brain no longer releases the same healing hormones. You may still climax, but there's no oxytocin to lift your mood, no dopamine to feed your motivation. Just a flatness, a shadow of what the experience used to be. And even worse, the body begins to expect pleasure without meaning, without presence, without joy. But it doesn't have to be this way. Even solo touch can be sacred. It can be a way of saying, "My body is still mine. It still feels. It still matters." Not out of shame, but out of gratitude. If this mistake resonates with you, leave a comment, "I choose to reconnect." Because there's power in feeling again, and it's never too late. Let's now close with a reflection that matters deeply. Conclusion: your body is still calling you. If you've made it this far, I want to offer you something real, my respect. Because it takes courage, true courage, to look inward, not just at a body that's aging, but at the quiet spaces inside you, the places that still long to feel. We've walked through 7 common mistakes that many men over 60 make during self-pleasure, but none of them come from failure. They come from habit, from time, from never being taught how to care for a body that's changing. Age brings shifts, yes, but it doesn't end desire, or connection, or joy. It simply asks you to listen differently, to approach more gently, to move with wisdom instead of speed. Each mistake we've explored, whether it's overusing porn, sitting in the wrong position, rushing, neglecting the pelvic floor, pushing too often or too hard, or losing emotional connection, has a single thread running through it: disconnection. That's the real danger. Not age, not decline, but losing touch with yourself. And here's the truth: you can reconnect. Your body is still here, still waiting, still whispering. It may not shout anymore, but it still responds when treated with care. Like a classic car, it needs different handling with age, but that doesn't make it less valuable. It makes it more sacred. So what now? Start small, be gentle, be mindful. Use curiosity instead of shame. Use intention instead of habit. Stop chasing performance. Start honoring sensation. Don't be afraid to breathe, to pause, to feel, and most of all, don't stop believing that connection is still possible. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s restore their health, revive their confidence, and rebuild intimacy once they stopped seeing aging as the end and started seeing it as a shift. You deserve that shift. You deserve to feel again, to live with presence, with strength, and with dignity, even in the most private corners of your life. Because this isn't just about avoiding mistakes, it's about reclaiming the quiet power that's still within you. And I promise you, it's still there. If this message has spoken to you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for more guidance rooted in respect, and share this with a man who needs to hear it. And if you feel ready, leave one final comment: I'm coming back to myself. Because your next chapter begins with that one decision, and I'm honored to walk beside you.